Welcome to our podcast From the Ground Up, where we interview startup founders exploring their journeys, their successes, challenges, and lessons learned. We hope you be inspired in discovering what it takes to build a thriving startup. I'm your host, Jake Aaron Villarreal, and here with us today, I'm excited to have with us Enrique Perezalonso, co-founder and CEO of Palla. We'll go ahead and talk a little bit about it and the details of specifically the problem it solves. But before we dive in here, Enrique, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Miami Beach, Jake.
Oh, great. It's a great place. Are you originally from there?
No, I'm originally from Mexico, but I moved here 11 years ago, so can't complain. Weather's great here.
Yeah, it's a place I love to get to when I can. I used to live in New York City, so going south was part of the program when you lived on the East Coast to get into some of that warmer weather. So originally from Mexico, walk us through the journey. What was it that brought you from Mexico to Miami?
Sure. So my history is that I've worked for financial institutions in Mexico and Central America all of my life, and we were looking for something different, like a leap year, gap year thing, so to speak. So we moved here, my wife and I and my kids, just to try it out, and we loved it. I started working first as a consultant for financial institutions, large financial institutions here in the US, for banks, specifically on the retail side. And I discovered Fintech and started getting into it. And the rest is history. So 11 years have gone by and here I am.
That's great. You know, we work with a lot of companies and talk to a lot of founders that come out of great schools. They're educated, Ivy League. And walk us through your educational background.
Sure. So I studied engineering in Mexico, which is a great kind of quant background, and it really served me well. Believe it or not, it really served me well for retail banking, which is what I did most, in my past. And then I got an MBA from MIT, which was also great, to especially people you meet. And it really opens up your mind to new concepts, new ideas, and really new ways to analyze and solve problems.
I can imagine. It's a great school. And, working with companies that come out of there, it seems that they're always innovating some level of an industry. Talk about Palla, Palla, which is an international payments company. When you built that and started to create what you've created today, what was the problem you saw that you felt like, in the fintech space, there was another opportunity to carve out a solution or an offering that really can scale? So
let me back up and tell you what I was doing before Palla and why we decided to work on it and create Palla. Before, I was working for a neobank. It was corporate owned, but they hired me as the COO. And, we were working with mostly underbanked communities. A lot of them are Latinos. And the number one product that Latinos asked for were remittances. How can I send money back home in a way that's easier? In fact, we were seeing a lot of customers actually ship their cards back home, and they would go to the CVS or all the recharge points, putting money into the card so that their family members in Mexico could use it. And we called them up thinking it was fraud, and they're like, no, it's not fraud. Don't cancel my card. So we knew there's this big need for a simpler way to send money. The current way to send money, not just to Mexico, but really anywhere in the world is generally not such a good experience. It's mostly done in cash. People go deposit cash into a little store, and then they hope that someone in the other country can pick it up. And we really looked for different, when we were still at this new bank, we looked for alternatives to enable this service for customers. And what we found was really bad. Like, it was like very old technology, mostly cash based on the payout. So, I talked to my co-founders and we said, listen, there's a huge opportunity here. Let's do something. And the rest is history. Now we decided to found Palla. And as you can imagine, we went through many different pivots, many different iterations, but slowly it took shape, and it transformed into what our customers wanted.
Talk about your customers. So if you're in the US and you have family in Mexico or any other country, I'm from California. There's a lot of agriculture here. A lot of
Yeah.
people are here from different parts of the world. They want to send money back on a monthly basis to help, provide for their families or friends or whatnot. How do they find you, and what is it they need to use your platform?
Sure. So the way Palla works is that we became more of a platform. So we work with with different banks and financial institutions and fintechs in all of Latam. We're in 8 different countries right now, expanding into a couple more very soon. And we work with the banks to enable their customers to request funds from the US. So, they were the kind of like the missing piece of the equation, which no one was taking care of. So now, if you're in Mexico, you can request money from anyone in the US. And what's great is that through Palla, we're a white label solution. We are embedded into our partners' applications in Mexico and in the different countries. And here in the US, what you see is really a checkout page for each individual customer. So, for example, Jake, if you're in Mexico, you're going to send your payment link to someone in the US, and they're going to see that Jake is asking for money. You're going to see the bank where you have your account. And it's just like a checkout page. It's super easy. You check out, you enter your information, and the money, Jake, you receive the money in seconds. Instead of having to wait hours or days, which is the traditional rails, you get the money instantly. So that really makes the experience so much better, not just for the sender, but also for the receiver. And you also guarantee that the person you're sending the money to is the person you want to get the money. And it's also instant, which removes a lot of the problems with the traditional remittance, where I don't know where my money is. I don't know if there's going to be a problem. I don't know if they're going to get it. It's in a couple seconds, the money's there. They can use it anytime, day or night, 24/7. It's great.
That's really cool. So if you're a bank out there that doesn't have the infrastructure, you haven't spent a lot of money in building out this ability to transact funds coming, in and out of the country, you provide that integration for them and really the technology to make that happen in a white label process.
Exactly. We also work with fintechs here in the US, and what we do is we give them an embedded experience where they can initiate a transaction from the US to Latam for payment to anyone. So anyone who has in these apps, for example, Domi, which is an app in the App Store, they capture the customers, and we power the solution to send money to anyone in the Dominican Republic, for example. And what happens is their customer never sees Palla, but we're handling all the compliance, we're handling all the operation, we're handling all the onboarding of the customer on the back end. And we make sure that the customer in the Dominican Republic receives the funds. So ultimately, we want to create a million little remittance companies with our partners, and both in Latin America, but also here in the US.
Yeah, that's great. What I think is even better about everything you just shared is the customer experience with, instant cash, across borders, not have to worry about going through third parties you don't know about. It's your bank that you're using in whatever country you're in, and being able to get that transaction done seamlessly. It seems like there's a lot of opportunity for that. As a company, talk about your journey of going from concept to building it out. Did you go out and raise capital? Did you go through an accelerator?
Sure.
And how big are you today?
Absolutely. So let me start first with kind of like the conceptual roadmap, because as and I've seen this, a lot of founders tell me the same thing, that you never know where you're going to end up, really.
Right.
You start with one idea, and then the market and your customers just take you somewhere else, and that's where you got to go, right? You got to do what the customers want. But initially, we started with kind of more of the traditional idea of a brand where we would capture the customer in the US, and then we would give a card to the US consumer, but also in Mexico, and we would have like a shared ledger. So it's kind of like a crypto solution in the middle. like a blockchain solution, so you could use the card in the U.S. and Mexico. And we started looking at the budget for that, and we said, "Oh, this is like never going to work from a financial standpoint, right? It's super expensive." And so we started look. We said, "Hey, let's get rid of the card in the U.S. We can. Everyone in the U.S. has a card, so we can just give the customer a Mexico card." And then we also saw, and this was someone else who told us, "Hey, forget about the issuing cards. There's a lot of people issuing cards." And we said, "Oh, you're right." So we just became a kind of like the platform or the app, right? And halfway through building out the app that people were going to use in the U.S. to send money back to the card members or the fintechs in Mexico, we realized that most of our partners in the region, like the FIs and the fintechs, they wanted to have their own brand out there. They wanted an embedded solution, and they wanted it to be branded with their own, with their brand in the US. So we said, hey, let's just do it. We don't need to build a brand. We don't need to become a consumer-facing company. Let's just give them what they want. And that's when really things took off like crazy. Like as soon as we said, hey, we'll do everything embedded in your experience and with your brand, all the different fintechs, banks, financial institutions that we work with, they just went nuts, and really things exploded for us, right? So in terms of our journey for fundraising and accelerators, we got accepted into Y Combinator in 2021. We were the summer 21 batch of Y Combinator, and it was great. To be honest, I mean, I'm not on the younger side for a founder, if you know what I mean. So they say you can't teach old dogs new tricks, but honestly, it was eye opening. Some things were very basic, which the way it has to be, because some founders were like probably don't have a lot of business experience, which is fine. It's great to go through a program like this. But my experience was always more in the corporate world, so it was great to get to talk with founders and really get very practical advice on things that you should be focusing your time on and things that you shouldn't, and things that matter when you're a startup and things that don't, right? And one of the things that matter a lot, of course, is the fundraising, and it's always looking at your runway, and always looking at, are you default dead or are you default alive? Meaning, what in 12 months are you gonna run out of money, or will your revenue and your funding, allow you to become a break even? So a lot of very practical stuff that we've applied, that we've really taken to heart. So I'd say that it was very much worth it. You give away a little bit of your company, but also I would equate it also to saying like you went to like like you went to a Harvard or something, where you walk away with the Y Combinator badge, which is very useful. It does open up a lot of doors initially, so it's great to be able to say you're a Y Combinator company. And in terms of fundraising, we managed to raise a little bit of money before we went to YC. But really after YC, that really helped us procure a very nice seed round. And we just recently went through an extension round, which we wanted to kind of maximize our runway, so we can continue to grow and get to a good place to do a Series A. And that's really where we are right now. In terms of traction, right now we're live, like I said before. We have around 10 partners that we're live with. We're live, I believe it's 8 countries. We have another 5 partners that should be coming live in the next quarter. And we're constantly, we have a huge pipeline of banks that we're working and negotiating with, and, both banks and fintechs. So we're very excited about the opportunity. We see we're growing at double digits every month in terms of users and in terms of money sent. So it's a very exciting opportunity. And I'd say it's also, sometimes it's scary, because sometimes you feel that you're on top of the world and everything's going your way. and some other days you're feeling like everything's a problem, So it's it comes with the territory, I guess.
Sounds like a startup founder, no doubt. Yeah, yeah, we hear that a lot. We see it a lot. We've experienced that a lot ourselves. So, yeah, I'll ask a couple questions as we get a little farther down the path here. As a company, are you local to the U.S.? Are you distributed? How big are you?
So we're small. We were born in the pandemic, so and that was a good thing because we were able to say, listen, let's just pick the best people wherever they are, and let's not make people come to Miami. Not that they would complain, but let's just pick the best people wherever they are. So we have people working mostly in the U.S. We have people in New Jersey. Here in Florida, we got 3 people, which is the state where we have the most. But we have people in Virginia, we have people in Texas, and then we got a couple people in Mexico. As we've grown, we've found that the language skills are very important. So we started hiring people, especially in Mexico. And also another thing that comes with being small, because we're only 9 people, is that you get to hire people that you know and that you're worked with before and that are they're excellent or good performers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So there's no guesswork and no it's been a blessing that we haven't had to go out and start interviewing people that you never worked with, and because ultimately it's you can do a great job, but there's still like a percentage of people that won't work out. And when you're our size, that's just a lot of wasted effort and time and money in onboarding and training people that ultimately are not a good fit.
yeah. As a founder, as a CEO, where do you spend most of your time? You're getting new customers. You've got clients that you're having to satisfy. Where's your time spent?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I spend it wherever it's needed, right? That's a short answer, but the reality is most of my time is spent first of all on customer business development, so new customers. I'm Mexican, so it's easier for me, evidently, to talk with and onboard and get new customers in the Latin American region, which is our focus. So I'd say that's most of my time, and also in terms of other functional areas. I'm acting also kind of a CFO, and I get very much involved in the compliance, which is a very, very heavily important part of the business. And the great thing is that my 2 co-founders, one of them is an awesome, amazing product designer. So I don't even have to give that a second thought. And our CTO, he's amazing as well. So he takes care of everything technology wise. So I can really focus on the things that move the needle on what kind of falls on my end, which is, hey, let's get new business, let's get new customers, new partners, let's grow the business, right? Uh, and and evidently the 3 of us pitch in on everything, but we kind of it's good to have a team of co-founders which is a little bit diverse in talents and in what we focus on.
Yeah, I mean, I think diversity in co-founders is absolutely imperative to really add value at different points in whatever you're doing, whether it's building the company or the sales cycle or marketing or product design. That's great. Um, as the leader, and it sounds like a founder-led strategy of getting new business. Um, what's your thoughts around scalability from new customer growth? And for some companies, maybe you don't need a ton of new customers to really significantly generate revenue. For other companies, they have to have hundreds and hundreds of new customers just to break even.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
So our whole strategy is partnering with distribution. The companies that have the distribution in Latam, right? So they can give their customers our product, and ultimately we need to find partners that have that scale. Sometimes we partner with smaller companies, right? But it's more of a gamble in that they're going to do a lot of marketing and they're really going to push the product. Um, But for us, the key thing is being able to onboard these large institutions. So when you're talking about institutions that have millions of customers, they become slow and sluggish. And so our challenge is always, how fast can we go live once we convince them of the benefits of partnering with us? How fast can we get them to go live? Because the larger companies grow, the more red tape you find, the more sluggish they become. So for us, it's very important to have a very robust pipeline of different institutions of that's a decent enough size, that we are in different stages of onboarding, because we know it takes time. It's I've learned, believe me, I've learned to be very patient because like that prayer, right? That God give me the strength to accept the things I cannot change. Well, that I say that a lot lately, because I can't just walk into a bank in Latam and tell them, come on, like, let's get this done now, right? So so it takes a lot of nagging, it takes a lot of what I call herding cats to really get our partners up and running. But once they're up and running, the product really is very it takes off. It takes off. It grows. But we've also learned that even though we depend on our partners for that growth and to keep communicating the product, we need to make sure that we are in their face and we are making sure that our product is there and they're selling it. So we've kind of also taken an approach of doing a lot of customer success management, a little bit of consulting for them in terms of, hey, let's make sure we're running campaigns. Let's make sure we're always doing something. So their customers, which eventually are our customers, know that we're there, and when they need to receive money from the US, they pick us to fulfill that.
Yeah, that's great. The market's been a little wonky over the last 24 months. From your perspective, when it comes to the financial services sector, what's it been like for you building technology in that space? And, internationally, have you seen, an ebb and flow? What's the outlook look like for you?
Well, the great news for us is that we are in a business that, even though that, like you say, the market's been wonky, a lot of adjustments going on, especially in lending, I'd say, on the fintech side, remittances, they just keep growing, year after year after year. Depends on the country, but they're growing at double digits every single year. And, a lot of people, a lot of economists have tried to explain it. So I won't get into it, but we're in a very, the industry we're in is very high growth. And the other big trend that's working for us is the fact that people, both in Latam and in the US, are getting digitized, and they expect to be able to fulfill their transactions instantly in real time in a way that's easy with low friction. So those two trends have really worked for us. And so we haven't felt any of the problems that maybe like other type of fintechs have. And it's been great. I can't complain. Even the last 2 years, I mean, the remittances to Mexico went from around 53 to $60 billion in 1 year. So
wow.
It's a very high growth market. And you look at every single country in Latin America, and the dependence on money coming from the US is very high. El Salvador, 25% of all the GDP comes from money being sent from the US to El Salvador.
That's wild.
And many countries, including Mexico, 1 out of 5 people receive money at least once a month from the US. So it's
crazy.
It's a huge part of the economy, and which makes it a huge huge problem to solve, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. We're trying to do it in a way that's better for the consumer, which is cheaper, faster, more convenient, and safer. Just to give you a little anecdote, and maybe I'm getting off track here, but there's remittance companies that will actually, they all pay out in cash, but they'll tell you, hey, if you get robbed, 60 minutes after you pick up your money, we'll reimburse you because we'll give you insurance. So why not get it digitally? Like, so that's why we want to make sure people get their money in their accounts in a way that's, like I said, instant, and in a way that is more convenient, but also more safer and more
Yeah.
secure.
And is it mobile accessible as well? Like from a mobile phone, can you
Yeah,
send?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Typically, like I said before, we don't have an app. We have like 10 different apps, which are all
Yeah.
web apps.
Yeah.
So we also don't believe that you need to have like 20 different apps in your phone. So we just every time you get a payment link, you open it. It's a web app. You register if it's if it's a new bank, you just register once, and once you send money, you can keep sending to the same payment link as many times as you want. And it's I think you can do it like in 4 taps.
Wow. That's amazing. Makes me want to go travel the world and use your app or use your company's infrastructure in my own bank. So that's great. I did spend a lot of time in Central America and Latam. And what are some of the bigger, I guess, industry or not industries, but economies outside of Mexico in Latam that you guys are seeing a lot of growth?
So for us, the big countries that are receiving money is evidently Mexico is the biggest, 60 billion a year. This year, I think it's slated to be over 65, so it's still like growing significantly. You have the Caribbean, Jamaica, which is very small in terms of people, but they get I think they get like $3 billion a year. Dominican Republic is around $10 billion a year, which is also
Wow.
a very small country population wise.
Yeah. The DR.
DR, it's incredible. Then and you have very very big communities from people from the DR in certain parts of the U.S. You also have Guatemala, 10 billion, El Salvador around 6 billion, Honduras as well, another 5-6 billion. Nicaragua, which is growing like crazy.
I've heard.
Nicaragua is growing like crazy. A lot of people leaving Nicaragua, so it's a very high growing market. And then you have like another tier of countries, which are very dependent on remittances as well, but they're like a step down. Like they're big markets, but on a per capita basis, they don't receive as much. So you have the Andean region, which is Peru, Colombia, Ecuador. Those are kind of like a step down in terms of the flows of money. And then if you keep on going down in LATAM, you have other countries which they receive money, but just not at the same level. It's probably a useful service, but it's not one out of five. 1 out of 5 people that get money. Probably not. It's probably more like 1 out of 100. So it's still a
Okay.
useful product, but it doesn't have the same penetration. So you have Chile, Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina as well.
Wow. All sorts of opportunities there. Um, we're gonna look for your company. I guess maybe not the brand because it's white label, but maybe we'll hear about the people that we work with, and we help companies locally in the U.S. and globally. And I can tell you one of the challenges for a lot of people is how do they get money and how do they get it out of the country to where their families are. So hopefully there'll be some cross pollination of companies we're working with and maybe using your applications even though it's
Absolutely.
a white label. Um,
And
yeah, go ahead.
no, if you let me add there that one of the things about being more of a platform and not being consumer facing is that we can expand into other use cases, which we are. So we're in the early stages of enabling companies to do payouts to Latin America.
Mm,
So we work with a couple of companies, just a handful right now, that need to pay out contractors, employees that work in LATAM. And we give them the APIs, they connect to us, and then they just disperse the funds. And what's great is that they don't have to go to a bank and do a wire transfer, and which costs a lot of money, and then wait for that wire transfer to be completed. With Palla, they just log into we give them a dashboard. They upload their payees, and they just disperse it, and the money gets there instantly. So it's a nice product that we are perfecting and growing now. It's great because we already have the rails, we already have the infrastructure, and then now we are kind of perfecting this new business line, and we're about to start like really pressing the accelerator on the sales there.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I was going to ask you, what's the roadmap look like for 2024? I think you're hitting on it there. Anything else that you're building right now that you're excited about, that you're seeing some real traction around?
Well, I'd say we're also getting into that issue that I told you about, which the banks that are very slow. We kind of said, listen, what if we built the same way we have a web app in the US? What if we give the banks a web app in Latin America, where their customers can register and they can ask for their payment link, and then they can get going instantly. So one of the great things, like I said, of having a good product designer and a good technologist on the team is that you can think of these things and make them happen very, very fast. And that wasn't my idea, by the way, but I never take credit because I'm not the product guy. But now we are able, on the sales side, that's great for us, for the salespeople, because we can go out and tell the bank, hey, you can be up and running in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's more of the time you tell us to, how you want this thing to look, than the time it takes to set it up. So that's one of the big things that we're pushing out on 2024. Like I said, growing on the business side, and also starting to explore new poles, right? Especially, like I said, the Caribbean, Central America, Mexico, very dependent on the US for payments, for remittances payments. But as you go further down, there's other hubs that are very important, like Spain, where you have a lot of people from Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Venezuela, who also want the same experience, also want to receive the payments. And since we already have the distribution in those countries, it would be great to have the hub so we can originate the payments from Europe to those countries.
Yeah, that's great. Expansion outside of the US, and God, why not? Sounds like you've got the team and you got the product. That's really exciting. I'm going to ask you now, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. We're going to just ask you what we call 3 questions, just really 3 simple questions, 3 simple answers. So more personal for you, but where do you go to think big or to brainstorm?
Well, I like for it to be quiet, right? So honestly, a lot of it is just being by myself and kind of having the time to just think about things and digest. We're bombarded a lot of the time with competing ideas, with new information. So sometimes it's good to just get away, lock yourself in a room, no phone, no TV, no computer. Just think about, take a moment to really think about, hey, what can we do different? What can we, what are we doing right? Which is something you should always ask yourself. What are we not doing right? Or better said, what are the things that we could be doing differently? And what are the things that we shouldn't be doing? So those questions are really important. And you got to be in a space where it's, you can really ask yourself that and really be honest with yourself. Because as founders, we drink our own Kool-Aid, or at least I drink my own Kool-Aid. And a lot of time I don't question, I don't question things in the sense of if are we going down the right path? Are we doing the right things? So it's important to be able to take a step back and do it. On the team level, at least the 3 co-founders, we like to meet at least quarterly and do this. Like say, okay, even help that even helps reset the dynamic between us. But we have to get meet in person and really ask those tough questions and make those tough calls, because sometimes it's you're going down a path and sometimes you have to change tracks, and it's hard because you're so invested emotionally that it's difficult, but you have to be courageous enough to do it, and really if things are not working out, you need to change tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. What's one piece of advice you got from another founder that you felt was priceless? That
what I would say is, build things that don't scale. Don't worry that they will scale initially. Meaning just get it out there, just see if it works. And, you'll find a way if it really works and it takes off. You're very lucky, right?
Right.
But, you'll figure out how to scale it and how to automate it and how to make it, completely automated. But don't be afraid to just try things and try things that might not be scalable. So initially you might be like doing things on an Excel sheet on the back end, and but get it out there, see what the customer thinks,
Right.
and because if they like it, you're gonna have a great problem, which is like maybe being up all night with an Excel sheet while you automate that process, but you're getting a ton of customers. So don't be afraid to try things that don't scale.
Yeah. I love that. That's really cool. Last one. What works for you in staying positive when the business is going through challenging times?
So that's a great question. What works for me really is I think it's more of a life outlook than than just a business outlook thing. And I think in life you just gotta stay positive no matter what, because life is gonna beat you up. No matter, it's beating me up, I'll tell you that. So you just gotta stay positive no matter what, because it's not worth it to worry about things that you have no control over.
Yeah, it's a decision you make.
Exactly, it's a decision you make. So for me, it's that, and I guess the older I get, the more I've learned to be able to say, okay, this is what I can do, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to bug people, and I'm going to get in people's faces, and I'm going to fight like hell for this. I have to recognize that there's things that are not in my control, and I'm not going to, I'm going to try not to stress about them.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've gotten better at it with age, because when I was younger, I stressed like crazy. And, and I've found that now it's just better to keep a cool head, because you know what? Most of the things you fear are going to happen don't happen.
Right.
So, a lot of that stress is just it's just uncalled for. And if it does happen, you're still going to stress. So and you're still going to solve it, which is the other advice, which I would say, that no matter what happens, you can solve it. There's always a solution. And if there's not, well, there's not. But most of the time, there's a solution. So it really helps me keep stressed and positive.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, things are never as bad as you think they are. They're never as good as you think they are. Just keep an even kill and keep moving forward and just show up and make yourself valuable. I think that's something that we hear a lot of. And I think that it's important to just keep that mindset as you go through the ups and downs. Every startup has them, every company has them. We have them in life, up and downs. It's part of the deal about being on Earth. So anyway, well, great. Well, I want to give a big shout out to you for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. And if companies, banks out there, other financial institutions want to find you, or other companies might want to think about using your product, where would they go to find Palla?
Sure. I mean, they can go to our website, which is Palla, which is PALLA.app, or just send me a line. I'm at Enrique, ENRIQUE, at Palla.app. So just shoot us an email, go to our website. We got you can send us a message through there. We'd be very happy to work with, if you have a company, you need to make payments in LATAM, or if you're thinking of including remittances as part of your kind of embedded within your app, or, we'd be happy to help.
That's great. Well, you heard it right from the horse's mouth. I love it, Enrique. Thanks for sharing that. And thanks for the listeners for listening today. Really appreciate you spending your time with us. I'm Jake Aaron Villarreal, the host of the podcast. Look forward to catching up with you all in the next episode. Until then, take care. Before we wrap up, I want to give a big shout out to all the entrepreneurs that have joined to make this podcast possible, and for all the listeners for listening. It means the world to me that you chose to spend your time with us today. I'm your host, Jake Aaron Villarreal, signing off for now, but can't wait to connect with you all soon on the next episode. Take care. This show is sponsored by Match Relevant, a company that helps venture-backed startups find the best people in the market, and they do it in 3 simple steps. First, they sit down with founders to understand their story. Second, they tell their story into multiple candidate channels. And third, they schedule interviews within 48 hours. Find us at matchrelevant.com to learn more about how we do it.